Mad on American Girls. The British invasion hit American airwaves in 1963 and liberated American bands from a commercial quagmire.
When I was growing up, my sister, who was a little older than I am, her favorite song was a song by Sandy Nelson, Drum Beat. And her and her friends used to get together and listen to that, and I thought, wow, that is really cool, those drums. I want to learn how to do that. So my mother used to knit, and I would take her knitting needles on a plastic bucket and play with that record all day. And that's really what got me going. Tropicana, that was my first professional gig. And when I was telling you I played the knitting needles, my parents frequented the Tropicana and would always bring home a pizza, you know. Well, one night my father came and got me out of bed at 11 o'clock. There was a band up there called Dick Pash and the Backdoor Society. Their drummer got ill, had to leave. My father came, dragged me out of bed. I must have been 12, 13 years old, and says, "You're going to go play drums tonight." And I thought I was dreaming.
British invasion artists inspired them to break into new mixes of instruments, lyrics, and songwriting, and even invented a new 60s phenomenon, the garage band.
What role, if any, did Ernie Anderson play in your life? You know, I met with the Starfires and everything and outside of it.
Well, he encouraged us to record.
You know, and what kind of a guy was? I remember him as being pretty amiable and very kind. He was at ERE at first before he went and became Ghoulardi on JW, right?
Yeah, HK.
Yeah, HK. Okay.
I promoted a Starfire song, Stronger Than Dirt, to announcer Ernie Anderson, who hosted Friday night's Shock Theater as a mad scientist character called Ghoulardi on WJW-TV Channel 8. From January 1963 through December of 1966, Ghoulardi played Stronger Than Dirt as a theme song to match his wild beatnik Daddy-O persona. Ghoulardi also played the Baskerville Hound song Space Rock. The hairy hipster Ghoulardi would also mock the establishment personified in the conservative Cleveland suburb of Parma, Ohio. In Cleveland, teenagers cut the doo-wop, grabbed their friends, and headed for the garage to plug in their guitar, bass, and amp. For every band that hit the big time, there were 10 times that number playing clubs and high school dances. The definition of garage meant high energy, rockin', unpolished music.
What is that? Does this program go to Parma?
As rock and roll began to explode on the scene back in the 50s and 60s, I was really influenced by Chuck Berry, when the Stones came out, the Kinks, and those were a lot of my really earlier influences. And you know, we got together back in '65 and recorded our song, which you told me about on Mojo Records, which I didn't know anything about.
In Cleveland, local bands like Circus told fans to stop, wait, and listen. Baki and the Visions confessed to Cleveland, "I Go Crazy." In December of 1966, the Choir scored a hit with It's Cold Outside. The Grasshoppers scored a regional airplay with Who Wears Mod Socks, and went on to swap with Joey and the Continentals as the house band for Don Webster's Cleveland-based upbeat dance show. This aired on WWS-TV from 1964 until 1971. On Upbeat, Go-Go Girls danced in go-go boots, while featured local and national acts played and lip-synced to their current pop songs. Other shows across the nation included American Bandstand, Hullabaloo, and Shindig.
How did the Outsiders come about? I think you told me somebody, what? How'd that happen?
Roger Karshner, my manager,
Yeah.
wife.
Wife. She named the group.
Yeah.
And the question that everybody asks me is, why did you change it from Tom King and the Starfires to the Outsiders?
Because it was hokey.
It was hokey. Now, wasn't it true that a lot of Cleveland radio stations wouldn't play local groups?
Right.
And you guys, I think, told everybody that you were from out of town.
Roger Karshner mailed letters from EMI England to all the stations in the nation.
That you were from L.A.
No, we were from England.
Oh, no, you were from England. I thought it was Los Angeles.
Well, I started by placing Time Malemi in the hands of Tony Nusho, which was my attorney. And he turned on his client, which was Roger Karshner, who at that point was with Capitol Records, and they accepted Time Malemi then. And funny part about it, when I was a kid, I won't even say kid, I would say a baby, I picked up, I remember to this day, I picked up records, there were 78s, and had Capitol Records on it. And I said, someday, I'll be on Capitol Records.
Your album number one's a masterpiece. It's you said Tommy Baker had a lot to do with the arrangements.
Horns and strings.
Horns and strings.
What about Chuck Mangione?
Yeah, how about
doing
Chuck
arrangements?
Mangione doing your arrangements and things, some of your arrangements?
Well, I picked out the instrumentation. Chuck Mangione followed my instructions, and that's how we encountered Help Me Girl.
Starting in Cleveland, Time Won't Let Me by the Outsiders rose to number one in Billboard magazine. In 1966, the band had 3 other hits, touring the U.S. and Canada. The song Time Won't Let Me has received over 3 million airplays, sold over 1 million copies, and has been honored by BMI. Sonny Geraci later formed the band Climax, charting with Precious and Few in 1972. Jim Bonfanti of the Choir drummed on the Outsiders' cuts Respectable and Girl in Love. Occasional Starfires drummer Jimmy Fox formed the James Gang, eventually joined by Joe Walsh.
What about Jimmy Fox playing for you?
Jimmy Fox did the All Blues show with me. He also played with me at the Gulf Lounge.
Okay. Yeah. Then he started the James Gang, right?
Yes.
Okay. They went on to do some things. Did they have any national hits, the James Gang?
Are you kidding?
Another garage band in Cleveland were the Alarm Clocks.
Formed in 1965 by Mike Pierce, Bruce Bain, and Bill Schwark. The short story is that they recorded No Reason to Complain, played out, and later disbanded. But this pint of synopsis is only the beginning of a story about a band that began practicing in a garage in Parma, Ohio.
Well, we broke up in 1967, and basically myself and our drummer continued on for a couple more years. Actually, I continued on a couple more years. He continued on a little bit longer than that. But, I didn't really pick up a guitar again until 2006 when we were asked to come back for a reunion gig that has now lasted over 3.5 years. We did a lot of garage band covers back then, basically nearly exclusively, and that's what you did. People that went to dances didn't want to hear which you did new unless you were a hit. You had a hit out or they knew of you. So we did a lot of the covers. We did a lot of Stones, a lot of Kinks. We did Paul Revere and the Raiders, a couple of Monkey songs. Yardbirds we did a lot of. So a lot of that kind of music we were really heavily influenced.
Hello, everybody. Hi, y'all. This is Alan Freed, the old king of the Moondoggers, and a hearty welcome to all our thousands of friends in Northern Ohio, Ontario, Canada, Western New York, Western Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
Yes, it's real gone.
One thing that never changes in music, whether you become known around the world or only by your mom, is the joy a musician or performer experiences when creating and crafting a song they love. Alan Freed and Leo Mintz gave voice to a generation of musicians that changed the history of music on their Cleveland radio show. Cleveland continues to break new acts, as well as generating local artists and songwriters with national impact as music tumbled through the swinging 60s. Cleveland radio stayed on top of new sounds, new ideas, and new ways of making music. Clevelanders and Ohioans led the way into the brash 1970 punk rock scene and the 1980s new music. Perhaps the legacy of our home of rock and roll is really only the advice to live your own life and dream the most impossible dreams. Cleveland gives you the opportunity to make your dreams come true.